Who's your next team you're looking at that's maybe the least threatening to an SEC opponent?
Yeah, I think Louisiana Tech taking on Missouri. I
Hmm.
have a lot of intrigue for this game just to see what Missouri looks like with Luther Burden, seeing Brady Cook now the full-time starter. Louisiana Tech's a bit of a mystery. They pushed Mississippi State last year and they pushed NC State. They had some close losses, but the question I think is with so many changes on the roster, they have a new coach in Sonny Cumbie who comes over from Texas Tech. You may remember him. He was from former Texas Tech quarterback not too long ago.
Yeah.
But they had a lot of close losses last season. But with all the turnover, new starting quarterback, it's Matthew Downing. He was at Georgia a few years ago. So he's bounced around and they're changing systems on offense. So there's a lot of change. There's a lot of new at Louisiana Tech. And I know those games that they pushed those two teams, Mississippi State and NC State, are scary. But with all that transition, they're a really hard team to get a read on. And they were 3-9 last year. So
Yeah.
I think they're a little ways down the list in terms of concern for an SEC team.
Now you mentioned Sonny Cumbie. I got that on my notes here. What kind of offensive system are we looking at for fans that are not familiar with his system, and what you anticipate this Louisiana Tech running with, like you said, Matthew Downing, a guy that's been at Georgia? What do you anticipate this offense to look like?
Yeah, I think the one thing about Louisiana Tech that stands out is they have an experienced offensive line and good receivers. And Cumbie runs an air raid similar kind of style offense. Some, sort of some variations depending on where he's been, a little bit more usage of the running game. But I think that's the kind of offense that you will see. They will kind of try to come out and throw it. They have some turnover at running back this year. So really their best chance to stick around in this game would be to execute in the passing game with some of those receivers. But I think you'd be looking for a pass first offense for Louisiana Tech.
And what about the defense? I believe they returned 8 guys with starting experience going up against, not a first time starting quarterback technically because Brady Cook started the bowl game, but this is his first season being quarterback one. Again, we've got this low on the potential danger list, but is there any cause for concern there that maybe a more experienced defense could maybe get in the head of a relatively young quarterback?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think first of all, Tech has, like you said, 8 returning starters. They gave up around 34 points a game last season, but they do have experience coming back at every level. And they also added some transfers on that side of the ball. So I think if there's one group for Louisiana Tech that you can project improvement from, it probably is defensively. Those games last year against Mississippi State and NC State, they gave up over 30 points both times, I believe. So I think you could argue last year's group was probably better, and now they're changing coordinators and they've had some other turnover. So I think if you're Missouri, you're probably worried about all of your new faces and the uncertainty with Louisiana Tech. Anytime you play that first game, just trying to figure out, what the other team has, I think is a big question.
Yeah.